We're in the TechCrunch studio today with Jon Bischke, entrepreneur who has just founded Entelo and former founder and CEO of Edufire. Jon, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me, Semil.
So congratulations on founding your new company, Entelo. Can you tell us a little bit about it and also what motivated you to start Entelo?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I've been a 5-time entrepreneur, and one of the things that I've seen, and also that I've seen from friends of mine who are entrepreneurs, is how difficult it is to hire the best people for their companies. And so when I was trying to think about what company I would start next, I literally talked to hundreds of people, and I asked them about their challenges, and I really listened to where the pain points were. And one of the things that I felt was that, especially as it pertains to technical talent, it's a really challenging environment for a lot of people. And at the same time, there's also this interesting trend on the web where there's now all of this data and all of these sites that didn't exist even a few years ago, where people are going online, they're talking about things that they're interested in, they're proving their expertise in certain ways, and we felt that those two trends were really interesting to tie together.
Okay, and specifically around Entelo, what are you hoping to offer your customers in the future?
Yeah, so we're early, we're still in private beta, but we
Okay.
think that if there's anybody out there that's looking to bring the best people on board, that our service can be really useful. And what we're doing is we're basically going out on the web and indexing a lot of data from a wide variety of sources and trying to bring that data together in new and meaningful ways. And
so this sounds like a flip of maybe what a in-person recruiting model would be, right? Where you're scanning resumes and sorting by LinkedIn or something like that, right? And making personal or by proxy introductions to people, right? This is a more technical approach.
Sure, well, it's highly focused on data, and it's highly focused on you going out and finding the best people versus waiting for the best people to come to you. Most of the industry historically has been about putting up job board posts or putting up a company website and hoping that the right people applied for your jobs. We feel like the wave of the future is people going out and finding people on the basis of a variety of things.
So it's much more proactive as well.
Exactly.
I see. And is the mission of Entelo to focus on technical talent, where you mentioned that was a pain point, or also broader if someone's looking for non-technical, traditional business development or writing, or maybe even something that doesn't exist yet?
We think it's broader over the long haul. We wanted to pick a small, focused problem to start with, and given the pain points around technical positions right now, engineering, design, product, we felt that was a great place to start.
I see. And so you've, as you said, started multiple companies and had successes already and really been looking at the area of reputation. So if we pull back a little bit, I'd like to hear your view on what's been happening in the last year and what's going to happen in the next year around reputation online. You and I have discussed in the past about a site like GitHub, right? Mm-hmm. Where it may in some cases be a higher signal that you can grab from there from other places. Can you tell us a little bit about your theories around that?
Yeah. I mean, I think sites like GitHub and Stack Overflow are the new computer science departments in many ways. They're where people go to learn, and they're increasingly where people go to see and learn more about a person as well. And so we think that one of the things that led us to start Entelo was that we were seeing the landscape around education changing. I've spent the better part of my last decade in education, building education companies, advising companies, and bringing innovators together in that space. And my feeling was very strong that there are now these alternative signals. And if you have certain metrics on a site like GitHub or Stack Overflow or Dribbble for designers, you're as likely to be found on the basis of those metrics by an employer increasingly as you might be on the basis of your degree. And that's a fundamental shift and a very disruptive thing in the education industry. So that was a lot of what led us to start Entelo.
And so broadly, if we look at reputation, right, you're trying to glean, Entelo and you and your colleagues are trying to glean reputation from these sites, right, in this technical area. What else are you seeing online where people are scoring other people? I mean, do you see that continuing? Do you see people pulling back against that?
Yeah, so I definitely think that it's a polarizing trend right now. On one hand, this is going to happen, and when Clout announced that they had 100 million profiles, and people said, wait, I don't never signed up for Clout before. How do I have a Clout profile? I think the light bulb started going off for a lot of people that there are going to be profiles about them on the web that are going to exist regardless of whether they've created those profiles or not. And they're going to be aggregations of data from a variety of sources. And that seems like a new trend, but at the end of the day, when you think about it, it's really not that different from what Google or any of the search engines have done. They've brought together data. It's just that these sites are doing that in a different way.
And so in the future, for what Entelo is trying to do around reputation, is the idea to say, hey, these are the best people in analytical marketing, or these are the best people in this particular computer language. not according to what their resume may say, but on the signals that we pick up.
Yeah, I think best is really hard to do. I think trying to find perfect correlation with something like someone's quality at their job is hard, and so that's not necessarily our goal. But we'd love to be able to provide certain data signals, and it might even be very simple data signals around where a person lives or something a person's interested in. And so there's a lot there. We think predicting quality is a tough thing. That being said, I think over time with more data, it's more of something that people will be able to do.
And what about for the long tail technical talent where somebody is out there who doesn't want to have a public profile, right? But they're potentially really, really good. Is it just something where they'll miss out on it, or is there a way for them also to talk to Entelo?
Well, I think it's very similar to LinkedIn over the last decade, where there are certainly a lot of people who still don't have LinkedIn profiles, and you can survive in this world without a LinkedIn profile. It's just you may not be exposed to as many opportunities. So I think that's really the focus, is that we feel that by having code checked into GitHub, by having answers on Quora, it's not necessarily true that that makes you a better engineer, but you are probably going to be exposed to more opportunities by being more visible with your work product and your knowledge.
I see. Now, if we take another step back and get a little bit broader, you have been a repeat entrepreneur in the education space, been successful, really put a lot of your own personal time, getting on a plane, going to the middle of the country, putting your personal brand behind it. I mean, I'd like to talk with you and for you to share a little bit about what's motivating you to do that. I know you're from the Midwest, and you've talked about your concern about the disconnect between what's going on in Silicon Valley here. There's opportunity everywhere, and sort of general unemployment in the company and the pain people are feeling, and sort of how do you view that, and how do you put that together?
Well, I think the challenge is it feels to me like we're moving into two different worlds. We're moving into one world where people have technical skills, and for those people, it's never been a better world. The opportunities, the compensation, everything's great. And then we have another world where people don't have technical skills, and for them unemployment is high, the future looks bleak, and that's a big concern for me, and especially coming from the Midwest and having spent a lot of time there. People with a lot of the technical skills oftentimes tend to be clustered in the bigger cities and on the coasts, which I think is one of the challenges. Fundamentally, it's an education problem. So when we think about Entelo, we're really trying to serve and help with a matching challenge. But there's also a fundamental need that we don't have enough engineers, enough good engineers. We don't have enough good designers. We don't have enough good product people or analytical marketers. And so we have a situation where the education system of today is preparing people for a world that no longer exists.
But why have you, I mean, you've personally spent so much time thinking in trying to raise awareness of this issue in and around Silicon Valley, right? Why do you think it's so important for Silicon Valley to pay attention to it, right? I mean, there are a number of reasons, I'm sure, but it'd be great to hear what those are.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really gets into the end of the day if you believe Silicon Valley is an island or not, and I don't. I think Silicon Valley is the one of the leading areas of innovation in our country, but it's our country. And I think that at the end of the day, we need to think about our country, and not just our country, but other countries around the world, as how do we not move into a situation where we have high unemployment because a lot of people have irrelevant skills. I think as we look at the economy today, the high unemployment rate is just as likely to be a structural issue as a cyclical issue, and I think that the unemployment rate for people with technical skills is pretty close to zero. So that tells you a lot about where people are placing their emphasis.
And so you went, maybe it would be good also to go back, and you wrote a couple posts on TechCrunch, and you went to Detroit and did a lot of work there. I mean, tell us a little bit with a little more color, like what you saw there and what you're trying to do, outside of Entelo as well.
Yeah,
and how other people can get involved if they're interested in doing that.
Sure. Well, I was part of doing some events around the theme of hacking education, which I always give credit to the guys at Union Square Ventures for kicking that off. But really the idea was, how do you bring together innovators in the space of education? And so, several months ago we did go to Detroit, and we held an amazing dinner there. And it was really, for me, it was a great evening, but it was also a symbolic thing where people came and said, we want to hack education in Detroit. And it felt to me very similar to what people did in New Orleans after Katrina, where people said, here's an opportunity to rebuild and start from scratch. And even though Detroit hasn't had a hurricane, at the end of the day, like, the conditions there in many parts of Detroit are equally as bad. And so what really inspires me at the end of the day is being able to destroy barriers to innovation and barriers to progress. And it's what we're doing with Entelo. But I think that a lot of the companies, most of the companies in the education space, are thinking a lot about this as well. How do we, through a better education system, allow for more innovation, allow for more progress? And so anything that I can do kind of behind the scenes to support that, I try to do that.
I see. And so let's bring it all back to Entelo now, right? We've talked about reputation online. Mm-hmm. We've talked about, whether you like it or not, you're going to be scored in some way. Divide between technical talent, or demand for technical talent and not, and sort of how that's separating parts of the country from the other. How do you see Entelo, sort of addressing a small slice of that problem?
Yeah, well, we're just getting started, admittedly, but I think one of the things that we'd like to do is we'd like to make it easier for people that are scaling companies to be able to discover people and to be able to find out data that helps them find better fits for their organization. At the same time, we also want this to be something where people that are out there that are participating in these sites are exposed to the right opportunities. And we think that if we can do that, we could help people on both sides be more fulfilled, be more successful. It's a big challenge, and there's a lot of people and a lot of startups, and certainly some great startups here in Silicon Valley that are also taking this on. But I think it's also a very worthy challenge, because at the end of the day, if you can do something that helps a very innovative company grow faster, build better products, provide better services, you've done something pretty meaningful.
Great. Well, we'll be watching, and good luck to you guys.
Thanks, Emil. Appreciate it.